All right, so this one, all right, you guys. So we're doing another Drumeo reaction to the genius of Danny Carey, man. So let's check this out.
Never wanted just to play beats. I always wanted to play the songs, and I think any good drummer plays music. He doesn't play beats. You know, you participate in the musical experience.
He's the drummer for the prog metal band Tool, known for his profound understanding of rhythm, his geometric and metaphysical approaches to drumming, his one-of-a-kind kit setups, and of course, his mind-bending drum parts. Danny Carey grew up playing jazz. He's played sessions with pop and rock artists like Carole King and Pygmy Love Circus, and he's worked with other bands like Volto and Zom. But most importantly, in 1990, he joined the band Tool, where he would go on to record drums on pivotal prog albums like Lateralis and Anima. Danny Carey's playing would become the textbook for what.
Yeah, boy, that's my boy Maynard James in the salmon-colored jammies with the butter.
In 1990, he joined the band Tool, where he would go on to record drums on pivotal prog albums like Lateralis and Anima. Danny Carey's playing would become the textbook for what it meant to push the boundaries of drumming into unknown territory, be it through rhythm, melody, composition, or independence. He's created his own iconic grooves and fills, he's a master of odd time and polyrhythmic playing, and he's developed his own unique sound on the drums that you can hear on every Tool record. But does Danny Carey deserve the title of drumming genius? That's the question, and that's what we're going to be looking into in this video. Let's dive in.
Woo. Bro, first of all, that drum POV of Danny, chef's kiss. That was amazing.
You can hear signature Danny Carey grooves on tracks like Stinkfist, The Pot, Vicarious, and many others. But to start off, let's look at one of his most famous grooves from the song Schism. The intro groove from Schism is broken up into alternating bars of 5/8 and 7/8, or you can think of it as a longer phrase of 12/8.
I don't know
like
what
you
that
saw in the
means.
previous clip, Danny plays single strokes on the hi-hats for the triplets at the end of each bar, and he also has his snare wires turned off, like you hear in the studio recording. So before we move on, I just want to quickly show you how I actually learned to play all of the grooves that are featured in this video. So inside of Drumeo, we actually have a whole bunch of practice tools and features where you can slow down the parts, you can repeat them, and you can even isolate parts so you can hear just what's happening in the drum track.
Wow.
So if you want to try that out, you can click the link in the description and you can get a free trial to Drumeo. With that, let's jump back to 1993 and let's check out the lead single from the album Undertow. So here we're looking at the opening hi-hat groove that Danny plays in the intro and verses of Sober, which was the lead single off of Undertow.
Yeah,
this isn't a super complicated groove, but it's one of my personal favorites and one that I guarantee every Tool fan can recognize instantly. Now, if you're a fan of Danny's playing, you know how often he uses those tom-based drum grooves. When I first started listening to Lateralis years ago, this was probably the first thing I noticed just from listening to Danny's drum sounds. And you hear this on more recent Tool records like 10,000 Days and Fear Inoculum, but you even hear this type of playing on tracks like Hush from their 72826 demo tape. And also on tracks like Intolerance from Undertow. One of Danny Carey's most iconic tom grooves is from the song Ticks and Leeches. Let's check out the track and then I'll show you what's happening in the drum part. Speaking of tom grooves, let's check out one more from the end of an earlier Tool track called Opiate.
Jamby, boy.
Danny Carey has mastered the art of playing in odd time and navigating complex time signatures, like you hear on tracks like Jamby, Rosetta Stone, Fear Inoculum, Invincible, Tempest, and many, many other Tool tracks. And when it comes to odd time, one of the first tracks that comes to my mind is the song Lateralis, which actually had the working title of 987. So both in the intro and in the choruses, the time signatures change between 9/8, 8/8, which is the same as 4/4, and also 7/8. And to take this even a step further, many parts of the song Lateralis were based off of the Fibonacci sequence. The number of syllables in each lyrical phrase represent numbers in the sequence, and the number 987, which is representing the time signatures, is also a number in the Fibonacci sequence. So that's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of bands that would actually write a song like that, but clearly this is something that makes Tool such a...
See, if I had been familiar with Fibonacci sequence before that reaction, I think I would have been able to pick that up. But since listening to Tool was so new to me at that point, I was just astounded. I was like taken back. And even with the rhythm of how he was doing the bars and the lyrics, you know, doing his lyrics, black, then white, dun, 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 off the Fibonacci sequence too. So I just thought that was so cool and interesting and different. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Unique band in the way that they write their music. So here's what Danny plays at the beginning of the first chorus so you can hear all of this in action. Another example is in the instrumental section of the song 46 and 2, which is played in 7. So right now, let's jump ahead to the Fear Inoculum record and check out the song Pneuma, which is pretty wild in terms of time signatures and polyrhythms, which we'll talk about later as well. So when you listen to this song, you're gonna notice that the time signatures are changing between 12/8, 11/8, and 10/8, all of which can be broken down into combinations of 6/8 and 5/8 phrases.
Oh, I love that reaction.
Here's one final example from the third verse of the song The Grudge, and this one is played in 5/8.
Nah, 46 and 2 means the chromosomes. Chromosomes, bro. Between parents. You know what I'm saying? Two people split that 23 and 23. Wow.
We all know a Danny Carey drum fill when we hear one. It's the hand-to-foot combos, the flawless double bass playing, and the mixed subdivisions and groupings that Danny uses. Danny has a way of incorporating all of these types of elements into many of the drum fills that he plays. One of his most famous drum fills is from the intro of Sober, where he uses a mix of subdivisions.
You said Jungian theory? Jugan theory? I think that about ascension. You talking about Pneuma? Pneuma is from the Fear Inoculum, so yeah. We you know what I'm saying, we gonna go do that. We not done with Tool yet on this channel. I hope y'all know that.
Ranging from
Carl Jung. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just reading that book a little bit.
16th notes all the way to 32nd note triplets. And of course, he executes this with pure precision and accuracy. Danny has said in interviews that he practiced rudiments with the feet, and clearly that's had a huge impact on the way he plays drums and writes his parts. When it comes to Danny incorporating double bass into his fills, there are obviously countless examples we could feature here, but two that immediately come to mind for me are 46 and 2 and Lateralis. One of my favorite Danny Carey drum fills is from the intro of the song.
Well, I might have to go listen to that on the reaction. I might have to go back to my own reaction and listen to that.
Song The Pot, where Danny uses these 5-note groupings that he plays on the snare drum. This creates some rhythmic tension, and by adding hurtas to the start of each grouping, he creates some forward motion as well. And on the topic of drum fills, let's just take a second as a collective group of Tool fans to listen to one of the greatest drum outros of all time, where you get to see these Danny Carey drum fills in action. So this next part is probably what many of you have been waiting for. This is the part where we're talking about Danny's use of polyrhythms and polymeters. In the clip you just watched of Lateralis, around the 5-minute mark, the band is playing in 6/8 or a 12/8 feel, and Danny comes in with this 5/8 groove over top, and that creates a polymeter. Essentially, there's multiple meters or time signatures happening at the same time, and it creates this really cool over the bar line feel. Let's listen to it once more so we can count out the different meters and how they're all interacting together. One classic example of Danny's polyrhythmic playing is from the bridge of the song Eulogy. So the bridge in this song features this iconic polyrhythmic groove played by Danny Carey. And at first glance, you think it's a pretty standard 4/4 groove with backbeats on beats 2 and 4 and a syncopated kick pattern. But when Danny starts outlining groupings of 3/16 notes on the hi-hats, it gets a little bit crazy. The kick and snare patterns stay the same all the way through, but this hi-hat pattern takes 3 full bars to resolve.
I gotta give it to him.
The Fear Inoculum record has some great examples of polyrhythmic playing as well. The verse groove from the song Invincible features some playing in 7/16 with a beat outlined by a repeating kick and snare ostinato. Now on top of this groove, Danny is playing.
Now I'm listening to this, but I'm not a drummer, so it's not really registering, but it's interesting information. That's all I'm saying. Y'all see that I'm kind of focused. Like, it's just like, okay, I'm listening. So it's like, now I kind of understand. Now I understand. You know, how you could be literally listening to something and not knowing what they're talking about. Like the timing signatures, like I don't know nothing about that. I can do this. I can definitely drum on the table. I said I can do that, but like knowing the time signatures, like of how I'm drumming, like I don't know how to do that. Like that's scholastic. That's instinctive. That seems like it's stuff that you have to learn or pick up from other people. You know what I'm saying? I understand rhythm, but the science behind this drumming, like it's like I don't understand it.
Playing the wave drum with this conga-like sample on every 3rd 16th note, and that results in a pattern that goes over the bar line. Putting all of this together, you get a groove that resolves after 3 full bars with 7 equally spaced notes. And this gives us our 7/3 polyrhythm.
Wait, did the stream glitch out? Hold on, let me check. It looked like we cool. It looked like we cool. All right. Maybe I thought.
Off the same record, let's also look at the song Numa, which is full of polyrhythmic grooves. In the instrumental in the middle of the song, we hear Danny playing these 3-note groupings of 16th notes on his electronic pads, all over top of a 4/4 bass rhythm.
Oh, this the stuff I really like.
And then he develops the idea even more by transitioning into this Swiss Army triplet style sticking and moving between different voices with the left hand. You can even see in live footage how Danny cycles between different melodic groupings with both hands at the same time. And this takes things to an entirely new level, and it's just extremely difficult to play. And of course, we can't forget about the absolutely mind-blowing polyrhythms in Rosetta Stone, where Danny is playing in 3/4 while also implying 4/4 with the right hand and even 5/16 with the bass drum.
I know homie giving us an example, it just doesn't sound like Danny. It just doesn't. He good.
Now, if
though.
that wasn't enough, we're gonna take this one step further. There's actually a video of Danny playing this at a clinic on his acoustic drums, where he plays a 4-voice cycle on the toms with the right hand while maintaining all the other parts, and this one is just insane.
That just sounds, woo.
So of course, we could dive so much deeper into how all these polyrhythms work and how Tool uses them in their music. And if you want to dive deeper, you can check out the course we have inside of Drumeo called The Polyrhythms of Tool, where we get even deeper into a lot of these songs. So you can click the link in the description and you can get a free trial to Drumeo to check that out. Not only are Danny Carey's drum parts recognizable, but so are his kit setups and sound choices. Like I mentioned earlier, a big part of Danny's drumming has to do with geometry, mathematics, and metaphysics. And we immediately see this when we look at Danny's drum kit. From the centered remote hi-hats above the toms that he's used in recent years, to the symmetrical cymbal and tom placements, and even the designs on his electronic pads. When you watch and listen to Danny play, you'll notice some sound and instrument choices that aren't usually standard on a rock or metal drum kit. And these are part of what makes Danny's playing so unique. Probably the most notable is his use of percussion samples and effects, which he triggers using Mandala electronic pads, a wave drum, and other electronics. Bill Bruford from the prog rock band Yes was actually—
Bro, I promise you, we just get back to this part right here.
drum, and
I promise you, this is what his brain looks like right here. This is pretty much what Danny's brain looked like. I'm almost 100% sure, without any scientific theory or proof or anything, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that's what his brain looks like. The stuff that he does with the drums is crazy.
And other electronics. Bill Bruford from the prog rock band Yes was actually a big inspiration for Danny when it came to using electronic drums. Danny is actually a tabla player himself, and supposedly he recorded some of these percussion parts in the studio, like the tabla parts in the song Disposition, even though he triggers these parts from electronic pads when performing live. You can hear different percussion parts like shakers, congas, tabla, and even percussion samples on Tool tracks like 10,000 Days, Push It, 46 and 2, Eulogy, Intention, and Fear Inoculum.
I've listened to all those. Yes. This right here, this is what I like.
Danny also plays a lot of parts with the snare wires turned off, and you'll hear that in tracks like Jambi, Schism, and The Patient. But it's not just about the setup and gear choices. Part of what makes Danny's sound and voice on the drum kit so unique is his background in other styles of music. In his 2020 Grammy acceptance speech for the song Tempest, Danny stated that some of his influences were Neil Peart, John Bonham, and also Tony Williams.
For me, it's all the great drum gods, I suppose, that come before, and I do my best to channel them every time I'm working, namely John Bonham, Tony Williams, and recently my good friend Neil Peart.
He's also mentioned other jazz and fusion drummers like Billy Cobham, Steve Gadd, and Lenny White as being some of his bigger influences, which has clearly made an impact on the way Danny approaches playing with Tool, and also with other bands like Volto. Listen to his ride cymbal playing on a track like BHP by his band Volto. Or an earlier Tool track like Sweat, where you can hear the fusion influence in the ride cymbal part. And even on tracks like The Grudge, there's an approach to the delicate snare and ride cymbal playing in some of the interludes that I think in some way has to be attributed to Danny's early influences like Tony Williams, Lenny White, and Billy Cobham. All right, there it is, the genius of Danny Carey. Hopefully you enjoyed this deep dive into Danny's drumming and learned a few things along the way that maybe you didn't know before. Now, before you go, make sure you leave a comment below and let me know one thing that you've learned from listening to Danny Carey.
I've learned.
And if you enjoyed this video,
I've learned absolutely nothing. That he's just that good. That's all I know. That's all I know.
Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons along with that notification bell.
All right, he doing the YouTube stuff, but that was crazy. I still like. I have to train my ears to kind of hear polyrhythms and really understand the timing of drumming and what he does. But I do appreciate the education, like seeing the musical notes, the patterns and stuff like that. If I understood the language, you know what I'm saying? Like that's cool. That's cool. Hey, you know what I'm saying? I didn't, seeing all the drummers that he's influenced by, I'm telling you, I would really love to look into those black drummers. But That's cool, man. So how do you guys feel about this one, man? Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at another one, all right? Peace.